Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to KoreSummit Webinar Series Blockchain Summit. And you're probably wondering why we're a bit late. Well, you're not going to believe it. I've been going here, kitty, 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 kitty. I haven't been able to find it. And so eventually Dr. Kiran Garimella told me, Oscar, we got to get it started. So I hope I can find that kitty, kitty, kitty. So without further ado, we're about to start our next KoreSummit webinar series. As always, my name is Oscar Jofre. I keep forgetting to introduce myself. Once again, Dr. Kiran Garimella is here with me. We're very excited to have this topic today. But before we get started, we do want to send out a big shout out to our sponsors, Nuvei, a publicly traded company in NASDAQ, one of the world leaders in payment processing in 190 plus countries around the world, and a complete advocate and supporter of the private capital markets. And one of the only payment processors at the moment in the KoreChain infrastructure for the private capital markets. And of course, we want to thank KoreChain, the infrastructure of trust for the private capital markets, the first SEC qualified blockchain technology for the issuance of security tokens, NFTs, and I don't know, maybe kitties, right? We'll get to that, right? You would never know. All right. So now that I have not been able to find kitty, 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 um, you're all going to laugh a bit today because, I'm probably like you. I have no idea what a crypto kitty is. And obviously, if you've been following our series, it's all been based on the groundbreaking, talking about blockchain, the impact of that, AI, all related to the private capital markets. And you're probably wondering, why would we bring this subject in here? Well, like everything, um, it there's always going to be a good and there's also going to be a bad, but when you unveil it, there could be some really good use cases for it, and we're going to have that discussion. But before we do, I want Dr. Kiran Garimella to explain to us the what is a crypto kitty. Did I say it correctly? Crypto kitty, right? Or is it crypto kitties? Which one is it?
Well, CryptoKitty is a singular, CryptoKitties is a plural, so multiple cats are the kitties, right?
And just to make sure, we are talking about cats, right? Like digital cats or meow 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 cats, like the
I
ones that I
well,
play and feed.
yeah, it's a great question. I mean, CryptoKitties are actually the digital cats, right? And I know this is like really, mind-numbing to many people, and going, so why would people have CryptoKitties, and what's this all about, right? It's a very interesting thing. Back in 2017. There was a lot of talk about how on the Ethereum network people can create all kinds of tokens, and there's all this hype and hoopla about various kinds of tokens. And a few people came up with some really bright ideas, and one of them happens to be the CryptoKitty. Back in 2017, one person came up with this wonderful idea called the CryptoKitties, and the whole thing is pretty simple, right? So people can create a kitty. They can design. It's all digital, by the way, right? You can design a cat, all these funny whiskers and things, colors, and you can then create an NFT. It's actually a non-fungible token. I mean, that is the start of the experimentation with this whole non-fungible token world, and that's what they did. They created this, and then it's immutable. Once it's there, no one can take it. It's yours. So you have complete ownership of it. No one can mess with this cat. The cat can't die. No nine lives. It's there forever, right? And I remember back in like 2019, I was looking at this stuff and saying, I got to create crypto dogs to go after the crypto kitties.
I don't think it sounds the same, crypto kitty and
No,
crypto
I don't. It
dog.
doesn't quite sound the same, right? Exactly.
Dog always has that negative connotation sometimes, and you put the word crypto on it. Ooh, you really.
Yeah, I know,
But
I know. So I
so
really set up a fake test company, called it Crypto Dogs, and started issuing tokens against that one. No, it's pretty interesting what happened. And in fact, I was actually invited for a lecture for students. These are master students in fintech, and I was asking, do you get anybody here play with CryptoKitties? And I was surprised to see that a couple of people, in my group, they said, yeah, we play with this stuff. It's actually pretty fascinating. I said, okay, each one to their own madness. But Oscar, it's a gaming thing. They basically create this stuff and create games, and they have a life of their own. They have various things that they do. So it whole became a very interesting and entertaining gaming environment, except that it's now put on the blockchain, right? Right. I mean, you and I, we know that these virtual gaming environments have always existed from a very, very long time, right? Building cities, and our kids used to play with that, and some still do.
So, okay, so let me make sure I got this correctly, because a blockchain is, so is CryptoKitties supposed to be the entertainment element of the use of blockchain technology, using it instead of playing Monopoly? I'm playing CryptoKitties. The only reason I'm asking this is because I want to get into the second part of this conversation a little bit, and that is, so if it is a game, why is there a value to it?
It's so first of all, I think the whole CryptoKitties movement and similar kinds of things that got started with the whole NFT thing on the blockchain. Look, you forget blockchain for a second. We had these virtual worlds before, right? There have been a lot of different kinds of worlds out there. There is electronic football and baseball games being played, especially unbelievably by faculty in various universities. For some reason, they love that stuff, and it's been going on for a very long time. The interesting thing about the slight dynamic change in CryptoKitties and this kind of experience is that not only do you create something, now how valuable it is, forget that for a second, right? But just create something, have fun with it. It's a game, got it. And then it's a way to explore the capabilities of the blockchain. But now people started trading. Now you can actually go to OpenSeas, you can go to CryptoKitties, and you can actually trade, you can buy. And believe it or not, back in, I believe, 2018, the highest paid CryptoKitty was like $170,000 for a kitty called Drag. You're right. $170,000 in at Ethereum price at that time. But right now it is like close to $1 million, I think, in current Ethereum price, and it's unbelievable. I know, right?
So, okay, so it's like I'm manufacturing, I'm building something, and then I sell it. It's like a piece of art, and so it became. I think I kind of get it. It's sort of like having spare cash, going to the toy store, the candy store, and playing with it. Tell me about the gaming component of it, because I try to understand something that I was reading online is where you can buy some. The next part just kind of, okay, you can breed them, you can play gene science, with
Yeah,
them. So
yeah.
where's the gamification component to it? I get the fact that you can buy and sell them, but that's not gaming. That's just
Yeah,
purchasing.
yeah, yeah. But the gaming part is you can actually build whole games around this, right? You can actually create virtual environments, and you can say, I'm going to have this cat, I'm going to invite this other cat, and these cats will play the games. You can create stories. I mean, you have the power and the creativity to do whatever you want. You can build a whole theme. You can build a movie out of it if you wanted to, right? I mean, an entire series of games. The cat detective, or any such funny thing that you can think about. You can put that. You can also create, and people do this all the time, not just with CryptoKitties, but many other NFTs, and that is to create a whole what they call like a collectible chain. So there's a whole catalog. So they create one, and then on that same theme, they create different ones. So if you create a kitty of a certain type, for example, you can create another one, but slightly different color, different hue, different complexion. So you kind of keep the main idea behind it, and then you can create various things. Somebody else will say it's a different kitty that looks very different. It's not the same thing, and then they create other things around it. So there's a whole interesting, rich economy of gamification and entertainment that happens with this stuff. And imagination is
Well,
the only limit.
well, okay, because obviously up until now, I mean, everything we've been talking about here so far has been on blockchain, AI, tokenization,
Yeah.
NFTs, and all that related to the private capital markets. And here is this product, and I know we brought it up in Hello Kitty, Kitty, Kitty. What's all the fuzz is
Yeah.
that here's this product that is purely for gaming. But even from a gaming perspective, it has crossed the line, obviously, because regulators have now sunk their teeth into it. Like everything, is that um, a game, like Monopoly, you don't see regulators getting involved. But you play a
Right.
game,
Right.
you buy the game, and people play. It's all fake money. But in
Yeah.
this environment, it's different. I look at some of the environment. It's all about the volume and how it's been fluctuating. It today was worth 35 0.99 ETH, and
Yeah.
last week it was worth. So there is a component of, not only are you creating it for a game, but you're creating it to build wealth. I mean, and I think this is the crossroad that everybody's been talking about. What are your thoughts on that?
So there are two aspects to this one, right? So one aspect is that you can use these assets, whether it's on the blockchain or it's outside the chain, it doesn't matter. But you can create value out of this one, and you can have games, you can play this stuff, right? The second thing that you can do is you can also trade. It's no different than kids trade baseball cards all the time, right? I mean, they used to previously, actual physical baseball cards, they used to trade them all the time, or stamps or whatever else, right? It's the same concept, and you can trade cats up to that point. There is really no issue from a securities perspective, or why regulators need to step into something like that. But what's happening are two. Well, before we get into the other part, you can take that entire asset that you have, that it's whether it's gamified, it's a crypto kitty or something else, and you can pass it on to your kids if you wanted to. Nothing's preventing anyone from doing that. They just have to share the private keys with the kids, or the account access, and have them added. So that's never been the problem. But now what's happening, I think, is that people are people are creating securities, and then on these gamified instruments, and then now saying, now invest so that at some point it'll be worth a lot. And by the way, we are going to create a whole ecosystem out of this one, and we'll increase the value of this. So now the SEC will look at the whole test and say, no, wait a minute. So there's an investment criterion to this one. It is dependent on the efforts of somebody else doing all kinds of things, right? So now it starts to become and start looking like securities. And when people are sold these things in the hopes that they can make some money, there is a question of misrepresentation going on. So that's when the regulators will get involved. So it's a
Okay,
very,
so that
very
so
interesting, convoluted, atmosphere.
well, yeah, and I think that's where, I mean, I can see the fun of it, right? I can get the fact that you create this kitty, and
Hmm.
but I think as soon as it crosses into that instrument world where people are expecting a return on investment, I think this is the danger zone of any.
Yeah.
I mean, when you play Monopoly, you're not expecting that, right? You own the
No.
property, you own Park Avenue, you're not.
Yeah.
But in this has made that game real, to the sense that it's real money to a certain, because people see it as theory. And this is the problem I've always had with those any cryptocurrency, is that they always peg it to the US dollar. So they are saying this thing has a value to this, and
Yeah.
therefore the person monopoly doesn't do that. It gives you all that currency, and there's no attachment
So,
to it.
yeah. So if I can just give one simple example using that board game Monopoly, right? It's a simple physical board game. So four people sit at it, and then they're playing this game. And pretty soon what happens is they'll say, hey, let's make it interesting. So let's actually have real money. So now they're actually betting real money, right? So the properties on the Monopoly board, now they actually have some physical cash money, right? Not the whole real money, but it's like, $10 for this property. It's real cash now this time, right? And now they started doing this. Up to this point, it's still okay. But now one of them has this bright idea. The guy says to his friends who are not playing the game, he says, well, I'm going to sell you some shares on my properties, because now I'm going to, if I win this stuff from my other board partners, now I can share the proceeds with you. So invest money in this one. and now it becomes a enterprise now. Okay, so now we have wandered into the land of the securities regulators now.
So that's where, okay, so that's what you're getting at. We're moving into when it starts changing its dynamics of what the expectation are from people getting it. So that's,
Exactly.
I have to be honest with you. I thought of it as something totally different after today. I really did. I didn't realize it was a game. That's the most important. And I maybe the people that were all there, and I can get it. I mean, I think where the line gets crossed, and it's easy to cross the line sometimes in these environments, and for people to take advantage of that from other people, and that is when you start. There's a monetary value associated with it, and I think that's when it goes from being a game that you're having fun to, my goodness, I lost real money, because we've seen that, right? We saw
Yes.
the spark and this whole thing. I mean, when you buy Monopoly, you bought it for 13.99, depending where you bought it for, but you bought it, you own it, there it is. Whether it
Yep.
goes up in value or not is irrelevant. You're playing with it, having fun. But that's where this thing has lost that face. It might have had that, but I almost feel like majority of people, whenever I hear the word, people, hey, have you bought any crypto, crypto kitty? And I'm going, no, I haven't bought any of that. What, to me, it's just like everything else. You're speculating, and they never said game. And it's funny, you started with the word game. So when did that
Yeah.
change occur? Because
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
important one as we
Actually,
move into our conversation here.
yeah, it's interesting. People actually start something like this just simply to create something, not necessarily to gamify this one. And then you get the second cohort of people, they'll say, hey, wait a minute, we can actually now put some history behind this. We can actually create a game, for example, right? Or a story behind it. And now the gamification portion starts. Then comes a third cohort of people. After that, they'll say, hey, I want to actually buy this stuff. I'm not so much interested in playing the game. I don't want to create CryptoKitties, but I now want to simply buy them. And if they go up in value, I'm going to sell them later. Right now, it becomes a trading investment, trading kind of thing now. So now it's sort of wandering into that. So I think it's different layers of people at different times. They kind of come in and they add functionality. They see different use cases for something like this, and we can get into some interesting examples where this whole concept of tokenization with NFTs, it's gone into so many other industries and other media. It's pretty fascinating.
So, okay, so let's walk into that lane. I mean, we're in the private capital markets, and uh, you and I, we almost got into the conversation of,
Yeah.
okay, so here it is. How can this be part of the private capital markets? How can the private capital markets use this, or is there even a use case for it?
I seriously think there is, and I know you and I, we have been talking to many people in this space who have some really innovative ideas, and neither me nor you or just a couple of us have the entire thing figured out. So um, it's we're imagining new concepts and new things coming up. And one important connection with what I call the private capital markets for this is, when people create some asset, a digital asset like this one, it's not a security, it's a digital asset. It's a piece of art, it's a crypto kitty or a crypto dog or whatever you want to call it. It's there. Or it's a representation of antique cars, it's a representation of motorcycles, whatever it is, right? Collectibles of various types. So these get digital representation, typically as NFTs, because each of those is one of a kind. And now the issue is that how can we, so trading there is okay, but how can you create securities that kind of represent this entire, not the NFT and the history behind the NFT and all that stuff. And that's kind of when we get into the securities world, right? And now we see there are people out there with the very, very good ideas, and they're all legitimate people, good people, not bad actors. And they're saying, how can we issue securities and raise capital based on these ideas? And now it becomes a question of issuing securities with the right regulation, against it and connecting it up with, backed up by the actual digital asset that's sitting out there.
Wow. So interesting. So I'm looking at it more now. I'm my brain is tingling because now that I like the game idea. I truly do. And if it could be used as a game, from a gaming perspective, this thing has a lot of opportunities in order to educate people on the use of the technology. That's
Yeah.
number one. Number two, where two existing types of blockchain technologies can come together to serve two different purposes and enhance the experience for an user. What are your thoughts on there? Like, I mean, I'm always looking at it from the private capital markets. What can we do to educate people? Because in the other
Yes.
sense that I was reading about, with CryptoKitties, is that they say there's a big component of educational. So is the educational only related to how you raise and breed cats, or can it be educational on any aspect?
Yeah, I think it can be educational on any aspect completely, right? So one of the things I always advise, when I'm speaking with the students, is that I ask them to be bold, to go out there and go buy NFT with money they can afford, obviously, a little play money here and there. Get on it, go to open seas, go to Dreamland, Centraland, whatever you want to call it, right? Play some virtual games that will actually teach you what's happening with technology. You just can't afford to not learn how these things actually happen. And you know that we ourselves have created some sample NFTs and put them on OpenSea, and we did an API integration with that stuff, right? So we always experiment with this thing because we can then advise other people on the right way to do it. So, Oscar, one of the challenges here is that people come at this from the wrong side. So what they're basically doing is they're coming at it from the non-fungible token, the public blockchain space, and they create something that looks like it has great value, or at least demand and interest, and there's a lot of community being built around it. Then they try to, without worrying about securities regulation, they're trying to create securities out of that one. That's kind of when they wander into the minefield, right? And
With the actual crypto kitty, and but the only way that would cross over is that when you try to sell the same kitty to more than one person. I mean, that's when it becomes that's
well,
when it distinctively becomes a security. Or did you have
no, not
what are you
necessarily.
thinking there?
Not necessarily. So
Okay.
thankfully, at least on the blockchain side of it, whether it's public or permission, the question of double spending is solved. So you can take the same
Okay.
CryptoKitty and sell it to two people, right? So that thankfully is solved on that notion, that part of it. Where it gets into the murky waters is when people start promoting those as if they were investment vehicles as security.
The actual kitty itself. Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed. And that's the line where when we that's why we're having this discussion, is because
Yes.
that's when it becomes important. But if it's kept from a gamification component,
Yeah.
and no different than if you fly Delta or United or any
Yes.
airline, they give you points, right?
That's right.
And they gamify the points. How? You have 10,000 points, you can get a free pop or a free sandwich or a free flight between Los
Yeah.
Angeles and New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But the idea is that they gamified it, right? We
Yeah.
How many people on this call today or listening in do not have a stack of cards or points card collecting because they gamified invested our time and effort. And interesting enough, but I want to tap into a little bit of that because over the years, you and I've had many discussions where people go, you know, th- that's why we got NFTs and cryptocurrencies and crypto kitties and everything, because it's just like the airline industry and everybody else. But I think they missed this underlining element.
Yes.
What they're all doing, in as a final result, it looks the same. What does it mean? It means I do this and I get rewarded with this. Okay. And
Yes.
let's just call it what they call them. They call it points. They don't call it tokens. They just call it points, and they give you a point card. or they give you an app, you know,
Yeah.
like a wallet. I mean, they all give you a
Hmm.
wallet,
Hmm.
and you see your points increase, you know. So every single time you take a flight, you go and say, "Oh, look at that! I got X number of points. That's fantastic." So now the question is, you know, the those points don't actually on a per one point does not have a value, right? And because
And
it
that's what.
doesn't,
Yeah, yeah, and if you read the fine print on a lot of the airline mile points or many other points like that, they basically clearly say this is has zero value or some really ridiculously tiny amount. So in other words, you can't take all your points and go to the airline and say, hey, I want cash for all this stuff. Now that may change, and I know some are changing some part of that because you can now pay with points, for your airline tickets and stuff. So they are in virtually they are like cash in some sense, right? But you couldn't just simply get cash out of it, so you can't do that. But you just brought up a very interesting thing, and I think we need to highlight this for everyone, and that is you mentioned the word wallet. That's a second tar pit that people get into. The moment you start treating this as an investment vehicle, that is the red flag number one. Okay, that's number one. The second is that all of these NFTs on the chains are in wallets, which means only you, the person who has a wallet, has the custody of that. I mean, they own it. There's nothing else. Now it's become what we call a bearer instrument. I own it. It's in my wallet. Nobody else has it. And if I lose my wallet, I'm done. I'm cooked, right? Now it starts acting like a bearer instrument. Now you have an investment vehicle that is beginning to look like it is a bearer instrument that is beginning to look like an investment vehicle, and we know that bearer shares, bearer securities of this form are deemed illegal in just about most of the countries around the planet. Why? Because the potential for money laundering and financing terrorist activities and tax evasion, that's that's a fantastic vehicle, and that's why they block this. So now you have something that is self-custodied. It's now became it's which makes it a bearer instrument, and now there's a securities component to that. Recipe for disaster.
and that's been the issue. And I love the idea of if people could just use the technology from the points perspective, and we can call it a
Yeah,
token, we can call it a kitty, and just stay
sure.
within those attributes.
Yeah.
You know, you collect 1,000 kitties, and that equals a month of this, or you get a book with that. I don't think that's an issue. Um, Airlines have been doing it for longest time. Look, I collect airline points. I collect so many points. You guys
Yeah.
have never heard of Shoppers Drug Mart. I mean, they're great. They say if you got 80,000 points, it's equal $300. So it's put a value on X number of points. But though that number changes, but they're not telling me one value, and you can only use it in their store. Did you see what I
Right.
mean? It's
Right.
to buy their products and so on.
Exactly.
So I think that's an element. So let's talk about the educational side of it. And let's
Hmm.
see if is there a play,
Hmm.
well, not a play. Is there an instance where we can use kitties, crypto kitties, to educate people in the private capital markets in a positive way? So it obviously doesn't infringe on security, but they can still have fun. It's a win-win both for the issuer, the broker dealer, because we got an entire regulated industry. And when they hear the word crypto kitty, oh no, 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 I don't want to. How can we do that?
So, were you thinking in terms of using the CryptoKitty? Let's take just CryptoKitty itself with no other chain, just the way it is today, the CryptoKitties stuff, and using that as an educational vehicle. So, for example, could we create CryptoKitty securities and then make them behave in certain ways and gamify this to teach people about the regulation? I mean, that is one way to think about it. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's the thing that what I envision is the following is using crypto kitties as a way to make it fun for user. Like, okay, so you invested $100 or $500 in a company, and we're going to give you two crypto kitties,
Mhm.
and these
Mhm.
crypto kitties are for you to trade between the holders of the company. I mean, this is the exciting part, right? They become like
Yeah.
badges. We have a client called, Brewdog, who creates pins where people collect in physical locations. But we have to be realistic. Look at the way we're
Yeah,
holding this event. We're doing it online. That's the
that's right.
reality. Hey, so we could use it in that sense and still not have to create it a value. Or does every cryptocurrency need to have a value in order to be created? I mean, that's one of the questions I had right off the get-go. Or does it have to have the value because it was created in Ethereum?
No, no, not at all. I mean, there is the gas fees that happen because of transactions and all that. So there is a cost component to this one, and how that's going to be funded and who's going to pay for it is a different issue. But right now, everybody's playing, whoever is playing CryptoKitties and they're buying and selling, they do have to pay the gas fees, right? I mean, that is inevitable on the chain. On a permission chain, we have a little bit more control on the economics of it, so it doesn't have to be. I mean, we don't have gas fees, for example, right? We don't have transaction fees and gas fees on our chain. And could we deploy these on our own chains and kind of gamify that? Absolutely, absolutely. And Oscar, if you think about, I mean, you and I have been, and you have been very a huge proponent and advocate of for companies to treat their shareholders as ambassadors for the company, right? Because many of these companies we see keep going back to the well to get funded again and again in multiple capital raises. And, who better to romance than the existing shareholders, right? Now, if you think about the shareholders as a community, could the company now create this gamification of the company's business and the securities, both for education, better engagement of the shareholders, extend that to potential shareholders and all that? Absolutely, absolutely can be done.
So that's an interesting point. So the kitty can actually be created in any type of environment, both either permission or public.
Absolutely.
But obviously, if obviously to use it in the public environment, there would be a cost associated with it,
Yes.
both for the company and then the individual to use it.
Yeah.
So just curious on that. Do you think it loses its flair or its pizzazz because now you do have Kitty, but you can't take it anywhere with you? Or is it because people have this perception that I got a Kitty, now I got something that I can trade? And this is really the heart of the problem, right? Is it a game, or are you're trying to treat it as an investment? I'm getting it right? I mean, this is the tough question that's often being dealt with these things.
Yeah, I really think I probably want to say it depends on the business case and on a case by case basis. But we always need. I think it's very important to keep those things very clear and separate. Meaning, is it a game, and is it being for its own amusement and entertainment and education, or is it actually an investment? Okay, I think those two things need to be kept separate. Otherwise, now we're getting into the murky waters of investments, bearer instruments or non-bearer instruments, and then inviting the scrutiny of the SEC and everybody else, right? So it's very important to keep them separate, but can they be tied together? Absolutely, yes. I mean, I can easily think about when, in a capital raise situation, an issuer company could say, hey, the more you're engaged with us, the more bonus shares you might get, right? So there could be potential
But we can
even
but
in the
we can
capital
give
raise.
them bonus share. Okay, but we can give them
Yeah,
bonus shares, which is the security. But
yeah,
here is this kitty that you can get.
yeah,
Well, let me ask you this now, because it is a regulated activity. I mean, our topic here for everybody that's listening in, everything's
yeah,
about the private capital markets using blockchain in that. We're not going to venture.
yeah.
We're trying to bring something from that world in here. And this is a
Yes,
really explosive conversation because from a regulation point of view, when we look at regulation CF, which allows companies to raise up to 5 million, regulation A plus to raise up to 75 million, and you can incentivize the investors. So everybody listening in right now, these regulations allow you to, we've had clients that give away beer, vodka, rum, I mean,
yeah,
pins, knapsack,
yeah,
anything. So now I'm going to give them a kitty. I'm going to give it, I'm going to give them a kitty. And this kitty was created in the public chain world. can it have the restrictions to make sure that it doesn't act like a security in any form? Is that enough today so the company's protected? Because all the company's really doing is rewarding you with points, but the points are being echoed as kitties, and the only thing the person can do with those kitties is either give them away. They can't
Yeah.
be trade. They can be traded in the sense from, do you want my kitty, Kiran? Great, I'll take it from you. So
Yeah.
because I really like the idea of bringing two different worlds together, which is the permission base, which is what we've all agreed that that's what the
Yeah.
private capital markets need, and bringing the public, which I think what it does is phenomenal, but it needs to create the safety net. Is that possible today?
It's possible in the sense that, if you, I'm not sure about the crypto kitty itself. You have to look at the contracts, smart contracts behind that, and how they're actually doing that. So what is possible or not? I probably not. But if you start a new thing, call it a crypto, donkey or a crypto dog or something like that, right? It's a completely new, instrument out there. Could we create the smart contracts on Ethereum or any other chain to prevent and restrict certain things? Of course we can. I mean, that's the whole point of having smart contracts. Can we make sure that the values are capped in some way, and there's no indication of this thing behaving like a security, for example? That can be done. It's somewhat difficult because once it's out in the open in the public chain, anyone can do anything they want with that, or they can actually create derivatives out of that one. They can create a derivative in kitty out of that one, for example. So it's sometimes tough to prevent all that, but within a permission chain, you can still make it pretty open on the permission chain, and you can make sure that these are the people that have been vetted, have been KYC identified and verified. Even if they're not investors, even if they're not shareholders, for example, you can institute a lot more control and protection here. And we can you look at the community of the broker dealers, the issuers, the legal people, custodians, and you look at a few of these other transfer agents, of course, and all of them have to coordinate to launch a smart contract that restricts the usage or how these things can be traded. Can that be done? Absolutely. And that's a classic way to do it.
Okay, so there, so that's positive. I'm while you're talking, I'm taking note. I'm liking this idea. Initially I was hesitant, because like anything else, we don't want to put anyone at risk. But I see the
Yeah.
real possibilities here of bringing two worlds together that people seem to think that it's in, but it can be done. And the safety nets, as you said, the smart contract has to be in a
Yeah.
certain way so you can work with Polygon, Ethereum, wherever you create it. As long as
Absolutely.
those limits are there, then the company is safe, because all it did, as you said, it gave away a playing card. You know, I gave you
Absolutely.
the playing card of this individual. You
Yeah.
can sell it to someone if you want. That's your choice, or you can
Yep.
collect it if you like. But what it cannot do, it cannot trade in any form of exchange, because it's not that kind of a use. And I believe that I like the transformation of that. I really do. I like the fact that in this case, the investor who came in for the investment is being exposed to this product in a positive way,
Yes.
so they can experience it. And I think from the crypto industry point of view, this you should embrace, because if the investors are coming in from here and we're giving them this product so they can know that it's safe, because remember, it's being delivered through a regulated offering, it will be
Yeah.
completely compliant with the SEC. It has some really, really interesting spin-offs. Let's talk a little bit about the educational side. Give me some ideas on what can be done with the cryptocurrency now that I own it from a company perspective. Obviously, the company is going to do all the wonderful things in educating the company, the investors, and what they do. But tell me how it can be done on a practical note, besides how companies do it today by sending news releases. Is it something the company needs to design kind of a game around and
Yeah.
all?
It's a great question. So there are some interesting ways that people can take advantage of this kind of technology. So, for example, a company could say, just to give one really simple example, a company could say, if you give us, if you give reviews for our product online, and this is not the security, but the actual product the company manufactures, it not the crypto kitties, but a real product, right? And if you do this, well, guess what? We'll give you a crypto kitty, or you can collect points and we'll actually give you this, and you can play with it and have some fun stuff with it. Or you can you can engage, you can play with the kitty or the equivalent of that in our world. And the more you do, we because it's a blockchain, all of the transactions and engagement and the analytics around it is completely immutable. It is stored on the chain, and people can say, well, if you do all this stuff, then you'll get a discount or you'll get some extra. So all these offers, all these participations can happen. And what's happening now, Oscar, and we have seen the sea change with the Jobs Act, when more and more people are investing in private companies now. And I think the trend for privatization is actually increasing. So more companies are now deciding to be private, or in fact go private from the public world, where we're seeing the trend. And so what's happening is that, ironically enough, in the public world, no one knows a shareholder from Adam. I mean, no one knows, right? I mean, if I own stock in Microsoft or IBM or Tesla, none of those people will know who I am, because my shares are held in street name. So they don't know how to engage me. They don't know my behavior, right? Not from a shareholder perspective. But now in the private world, we have seen, the Brewdog is a classic example that you gave. They created a whole community out of this one. They created a whole culture out of this one. They call them condenser punks or whatever it is. They love it. And the more the company can engage with that, now they've built an audience around this whole thing. And now we're seeing, marketplaces, for example, that cater to people who are interested in a specific topic, a collectible. It's antique cars, it's movies, it's baseball, it's whatever else it is. They are very much focused on creating a community around that one. On the security side, the protections of the blockchain, the permission blockchain, and the regulation is fantastic. So we know that part. And now you add this component of gamification, entertainment, education, community build up, and just get these people engaged. You will see a lot of traction, I think. I mean, they would love to do that. At the same time, all of the things they're doing there has value, because now it's immutably tied to their securities, and it's represented by that. So it's a fantastic thing. And I think even as I speak, I'm coming up with this interesting idea. So this
Well,
is a
that's what I'm thinking. I mean, my brain is rattling. I never would have thought that I would be thinking of like this, but I'm excited about it. I'm encouraged, and hopefully, people here that are listening in, this is a positive sign. What we're
oh yeah.
saying here is that we can bring these worlds together, keep everyone compliant, and that's that is at the core of what we do. It's got to be, you know, 100% compliant for everyone, the issuer, the investor, the intermediaries like the finger broker dealer, and all the providers that are involved. So I'm encouraged that this product, which I was reading, how did this happen? They said it was a phenomenon that just occurred, and it's
Yeah.
still there. It's where people can design, so companies can design their own kitties, and then give them out. And if there's a way to do it in a way that the company not only designs them but thinks about the journey of their stakeholders and how they can
Yep.
be engageful in this new world, I think that's pretty cool. I never would have thought that I would have got here the way we are. And this conversation is just, my brain is opening up. Seriously. You
and
you
and,
had
and
other ideas there.
yeah, no. I mean, and what's interesting is that this has been an evolution even for the CryptoKitties people, right? I mean, Dapper Labs had built CryptoKitties originally back in 2017. They went on to create the NBA Top Shot NFTs. So this is, a time limited clip of few seconds. I forget how many seconds it is. Of a fantastic play in NBA, and they can actually create the video and create a NFT out of that one, And now you can go to NBA Top Shot. You can actually trade this stuff. You can buy this stuff. You can sell it. You can gift it or transfer it to your estate. It's like an inheritance. And someday it's like a Mickey Mantle card, right? I mean, somebody bought it 40 years ago for a very low price, and now it's like millions. I don't know. So the same concept is going to apply. I mean, it's happening in cricket, in the Indian cricket. The officials, and all of this has to be official, by the way. So NBA Top Shot, it has to be by the official NBA association. Same thing with the other sports as well. US Open, US Federation has the same thing too. So they take a fantastic play of somebody scoring the final shot, the final point in winning the championship. So they take just a 6-second or 15-second, 10-second video. They create a gamification, and there's only one of the kind, and it is attested and signed by the association. That's one of a kind, and now it's put up for sale, and people can buy this, right? And then it can accumulate in value as time goes by.
Yeah, that's I think that's the part that just kind of, for me, solidifies everything that I've been, going through in my mind. I'm going, this is really exciting. I mean, this is a really great product that in my mind I never would have, because I totally had a different definition of it, right?
Absolutely, and you think, and you ask this, it's a great thing to think about. It's the education, and you think about all these companies, Axie Infinity, for example, the Sandbox, Decentraland, all these people. What they've actually done is they've created entire economy worlds out there. So just think about a company that raised capital and or a marketplace that is catering to a particular hobby segment. They can actually create using the combination of, well, we have the securities for investment, of course, but then you also have these other technologies, the gamification, CryptoKitty kind of environments. They can create all this stuff for education in their entire space, right? Capital markets, our idea, of course, is to do the same thing in education about regulation, different, regulation CF and regulation A plus in different jurisdictions, regulation D. What does it actually mean? And we create this gamification using these environments, and everybody comes in there and plays it, and everybody in the private market knows, oh, so that's how this works. So it's a combination of the AI stuff. It's a combination of the gamification that's possible here, and it's all educational.
Wow. That's yeah, I'm already there. So now obviously this will take well, no, I'm already there, because I think,
Yeah.
look, we've been talking about the not the collision, but the intersection that is occurring. And
Yes.
if some of you were in our last call, we were talking about smart contracts, and before that, tokenization of real world assets. What is all this? Where there's a realization already within chains
Yep.
that not all chains can do everything. And one thing public chains do extremely well, they've gamified this product, this kitty, and to the point where it can be extremely explosive for a company to use. And the investment is what they're really doing. People go, well, it's going to cost a lot of money to but they're creating a game for your company that is going to be engageful for your audience, that is going to keep them there, which then, if they like what's going on, they're going to keep reinvesting in your company because you kept them engaged. I seriously, I didn't really realize that this could actually be. Do you have any ideas? I mean, the obviously the companies like Polygon, you would have to speak to the big players who are working on this. The gamification component, which is the one that I'm mostly interested in, creating the game. Do you think they have the framework in order to create a specific game, or this is where the two domains come together and say, okay, for the private capital markets, this is a company, and then you add that element, then you add the elements of the company into the game, and then it becomes something very specific. Is that where you think we could head in that direction?
Yeah, there are tools and environments out there that are already have the infrastructure for gamification, so you can actually go out and actually build your own game, your own economies on top of that. So we need to, everyone interested in this space obviously we would love to chat to explore some of these environments and what can actually be done with that. But yes, there are tools, and they will keep maturing even as we speak. There's going to be more of the AI component into this one. You know what happened recently with the generative AI, for example, the Sora model, where the videos, just with a few prompts, we get some fantastically realistic videos. So where we're headed with all this is, I think we're going to be seeing a new skill set emerging, new realization of how to use all this very effectively is going to emerge. People will start learning how to create entire games, movies, videos, just by text prompts, just by doing that, using technologies like that. And then you combine them with existing frameworks and tools on gamification environments that people have today. I think it's going to be a very interesting and explosive situation.
I agree. I agree. I think this is where the two environments come together, and more importantly, respecting each other's lanes. As per se, we often say in our topics is that I'm excited. If I'm going to leave this, I think I found our kitty. It took us a few minutes at the beginning of the session. I found our kitty. I'm excited about that. That's number one. Number two, anybody who's listening in and you are building kitties, we want to talk to you, because this is the time where these two environments can come together. You've heard how it obviously needs to be fully compliant, and I'm sure you would respect that, whoever's building this out. But more importantly, for companies listening in, you have a way of bringing these two worlds together, because they are somewhat similar, and they're coming together. They're not
Yeah.
colliding, they're converging together. That means, so we need to educate people on the whole concept of blockchain and how it works, and what better way than to make it into a fun game. And I'll say this as closing: one thing that with CryptoKitties that it hasn't received is a lot of negative press around it, because it didn't ever try to cross that lane. There was a few bad actors, but not like NFTs where 80, 90%, and ICOs 100%. This is one that really was, with its true intent, trying to make sure that it stayed within that. Let's make it fun. It was a game. Let's make sure people use it correctly. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And but I think, Oscar, there's one other thing it would be useful if you can just conclude with that part, and that is compliance. Everything is about safety and security, right? And this is the distinction that this part of the world is compared to, the Wild West ICO, all the scams that happened before. And now we need to make sure that everyone understands and educate people how to be safe and compliant. I mean, I think, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, listen, compliance goes without saying. I mean, I think this is I'm excited. I really am. I love the way. I mean, I didn't understand it. My own son told me when he was born to kitties, and I treated it something. I haven't done it, but I like the idea of making things fun. I think we all need that once in a while. We need it, and
Yeah.
maybe for the very first time, we will have an experience with a product that can merge the two elements of seriousness, which is what we do, which is it's got to be compliant for everybody. uh, that's most important. The issuer needs to be compliant with the SEC. So does the broker dealer needs to be compliant with FINRA and the SEC. So I think everybody respects that here, and then I appreciate that everyone who's listening in today has a respect for that. And you see, we really are trying hard to make this happen for everyone, so we can see the innovation that's happening there, bringing it over here. And I think we got one. I really believe we have one, and I'm going to do everything I can to find us a company to work with, whether it's people at Polygon, reaching out to anyone out there that is doing this. And did you have any last words before we close off today, Kiran?
No, 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 no. I mean, I too started this discussion today saying, I'll share what I know. But then as we spoke, you and I, we have been making some quick notes about stuff. Wait a minute, that's a good. So it's very innovative, and like I encourage people, let's chat more. Everybody listening in, love to hear, because it's by this collective thinking that we can create like really explosive innovation. So I'm super excited, Oscar.
I am as well. I am as well. This is one summit that that I'm leaving with. I want to do something to bring it to light so we can start showing people that there are positive ways to bring all this together. I want to thank everybody today for coming out, hearing us have a great conversation, bringing two worlds together. We found our kitty. I'm excited. I'm not going to tell you what our kitty's going to look like. I'm going to leave it as a surprise. We have a team of 60 people on our team. I am excited just beyond words on where this can go. I really am. The part that I'm thinking in my head is where the element of the game part is, but I'm sure with all the people that we have on our team, our advisors, our partners, our ecosystem, everyone out there, we need to do this in order to bring this together. So thank you once again, everyone. We're really excited that you came out and you furnished us with your time in order to learn more about this. And of course, like always, we will be back next Thursday. That's right, next Thursday, and we are going to be talking about NFT, not for toddlers. Okay, see, we're not for toddlers,
That's what I'm
and we're really going to dive into that one. Till next time, thank you so much for your time today. Love to hear your comments. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We really love to have your support. Till next time, have a great day. Thank you, everyone.